And I want, of course, immediately to congratulate our new leader of the opposition, and Balder Lawrence, honorable member, back on stream. I want to also commend, from the stats that I heard as to attendance, Ganesh and Jureta for being 100% present. Honorable members being 100% present at the Public Accounts Committee. It does appear that from some of the speakers on the other side, severe blackout moments are occurring in relation to their arguments on this issue. It is rather elusive moments, because the entire nature and context of what is called Public Accounts Committee is not understood and comprehended by them at all. Mr. Speaker, you would know, you being a parliamentarian for years, that the Public Accounts Committee is a committee that is sui generis and is unique. And the axis upon which its pivot rests is also to be advantageous to the opposition, whosoever the opposition will be. And you know, just now I heard from Mr. Sanjeev Dattadin, honorable member, talking about fairness and balance and all of that. And when we were asking at the Natural Resource Fund just to name one member that will scrutinize the committee there, they didn't want to do that. But here it is, we have Public Accounts Committee, which is to ensure the scrutiny of expenditures by the government of the day, now being literally made de minimis in the context of this amendment that could be abused. And it is not true for anybody to say that they are going to get more balance with their 2 members being compulsory and mandatory there before a meeting could be called. Their 2 members or their 5 members could be there, and they could scrutinize too. Just that is why, Mr. Speaker, you would know that we expanded participation from 7 to 9 members. The coalition administration extended it 9 members, so you can have 4 and 5. And to that extent, the whole concept of participation, Mr. Speaker, the more concept of participation is to have a certain set of numbers. And the numbers include 5 or 4, 5 depending on when you are in government. And this has been a time-tested proposition for the PAC. Since 1963, it was there. And also, it was for purposes of that reason that the unique characteristic of it was that the chairperson must be from the opposition. But we had what is called the commencement of a process to derail the guardrails when they said, and came by motion here, that if we have no confidence in the chairperson must go. And that is how they ousted that which the opposition, who the opposition wanted, they ousted. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely dangerous development. It is a development that is now, in a sense, against the time-tested. And this is happening in England, the mother of all parliaments, whereby these things occur and the attributes remain for centuries. But you know what they want to do? They want to collapse the sacrosanct nature of the Public Accounts Committee. They want to rule by what you call the tyranny of the majority here. That is what we are having. And it is what you call rather than the rule of law, rather than the rule of law, we have what is called the law of the ruler. And so that they now will ensure that this happens. Mr. Speaker, the guardrails have started already collapsing. Judicial Service Commission not there. Public Service Commission not there. Teaching Service Commission not there. Natural Resource Fund Board not there. Oh, Local Content Secretariat not there. Petroleum Commission not there. Integrity Commission. Almost 2 years. Oh yes, you could cuss us down. A portion of our administration, we did not do it. But you promised that you're going to correct it. And you know, Mr. Speaker, they have not. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state this a little history. We had a robust parliamentary reform process. It started around 2002 and it rose up to 2006, where we have Sir Michael Davies, Pinda, Bradford, and all those other persons that were created via consultancies to write in to our standing orders what should be recommendations. You know, we agreed on this 3-person as the quorum. Not only because it was time-tested since 1963, but also because we had rationalizations for it. I sent to you, Mr. Speaker, a copy of why that was so. And we had a World Bank official that had come to Guyana called Staphenhurst. I remember him being invited by then President Jagdeo. And we also had another person by the name who was doing some research for Mr. Sir Michael Davies. His name is McGee, writing on the budgetary process. And they were talking why it is that it is necessary to have this process of a quorum. And this was one of the arguments. I have sent it to you. Small PSCs are also believed to be less likely to work effectively because of their size, obviously. And that is why it went up to 9. A small PSC may be confronted with a variety of problems. Its members may have too many other committee duties and may not devote sufficient attention to their PSC work. Its members may have commitment that prevent them from attending committee meetings and preventing the PSC from reaching the quorum, Or the committee may be dominated by government-affiliated MPs who have little intention for effectively scrutinizing the expenditures of government that they come from. That is what it is. So you have today an amendment to a time-tested, time immemorial. This thing is there. Why touch it? When we did what we did in relation to the amendments to committees and even to increase their sizes, we never touched the core rate proposition. We always left it at 3 because we found that it was enshrined by the time and also enshrined because of the sense, the common sense approach that is made of it. And when you talk about the issue, of it will be fairness and balance, that is a sleight of hand, a complete sleight of hand to ensure now that controlling it by virtue of having 2 members of the government side to form a quorum, which could very well stultify and stifle the work of that committee. We never wanted to deny government people their right to be in that PSC. They just got to show up. And if they don't show up in accordance with the nature and context of that PSC, the work will get done by 3 members of the opposition proceeding with the work. If they don't want to show up, well, that is it. But if you now go and implant on a standing order that was there for such a long period of time, time-tested, and in accordance with all the other in the Commonwealth countries of the world, you are making, obviously, some oblique motive be your motivation. And that is why it was very commendable when Ganesh Mahipal spoke, indicating what it is that is there. So this reform process that we had, which ensured that we did not touch the three-member committee, the three-member that created the quorum, had tremendous, good, cogent, compelling reasons behind it. What it is that the three-member committee can do too, and it has been written in the literature, is that it compels the government members who might want not to be there to come there. That is what it does. Because you can very well have, when you've set up what you're now trying to set up, and to entrench quorum to mean the two members of the government side must be in this committee, it then ensures that you take away their compulsion of wanting to be there by virtue of not staying away, and as a result of the staying away, their work not getting done. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I really couldn't understand why it is that they put in this whereas clause, whereas Standing Order number 83.5 provides in the Parliamentary Management Committee a certain quorum of 5 members and so on. We're talking apples and oranges. The Parliamentary Management Committee is a totally different kettle of fish from the Public Accounts Committee. And to that extent, then, to put this as a red herring and a non sequitur, to argue the case for their resolve clause is but a sleight of hand, a blackout moment for those who purport to talk about democracy but knows nothing about its institutional aspect. Mr. Speaker, what we have here is a galloping erosion. That is the galloping erosion of our institutions in this Parliament. It is a rolling back of the enshrining and the entrenchment of the Public Accounts Committee to do its work, and especially in the context of Guyana now having so much more money as a result of that production agreement in petroleum that we signed on. They are going to now want to do away with the scrutiny that can come by virtue of the stifling and stultifying of the work of that committee. Mr. Speaker, could they really explain that whereas clause? Because Parliamentary Management Committee is a committee, unlike the PAC, in the sense that it tries to build consensus in relation to how Parliament will be run. But by the very nature of a Public Accounts Committee, you have to have fierce and fiery, independent calls made on government spendings. That is a component of democracy in relation to financial arrangements that is necessary. And so it does not have to have a 2 and 2 and a chairman. You go there, all the other committees have that. But they're trying to hoodwink. That is a wrong word, I understand. But whatever, the bamboozle is probably the word. Or they're trying as best as possible to steer our gaze away from their motivations of not wanting to do the correct thing. And that steering of the gaze is by saying, like, you know, the Parliamentary Management Committee has a 2-2-1 chairperson, and let me put it like that. No! Just like how the analogy, I think of it because I was in the criminal bar for many years, and it is the nature of why there is something called the presumption of innocence of accused people. Why they got to be judged by their peers. Because when there is a prosecution by the state and all its resources, it could be disadvantageous for justice if you don't give the presumption and a jury to a minuscule accused. Similarly here, the analogy has got to be understood in that context, that the axis upon which public accounts committees all over the world is driven by the fact that the opposition of the day must have that advantage. What we're seeing here now is a taking away. It is a rollback, a tremendous rollback. And it is, of course, another aspect in this galloping erosion of institutional democracy. It must not be allowed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to touch on this aspect of the needs assessment. I come back a little on that. When we were doing the needs assessment of Parliament during that very robust parliamentary era of around 2004, 2006 period, and even extended, we made sure that we went into all of these committees and even the other committees that we created for purposes of ensuring that there is an element of not a tyranny of the majority. Not a tyranny of the majority. And that is why we got photocopies of the standing orders of the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. And the introduction, what is called, I think, note on the standing orders. The standing orders of the National Assembly were amended in 2011 by the Special Select Committee on the report of the drafting standing orders. I was a member of that committee. Honorable Member Gail Teixeira used to say that I never used to attend meetings. Members worked assiduously in conducting meetings over a 4-year period where they carefully considered each order. That is what we have here in the standing orders, where they carefully considered each order, making deletions, insertions, and also ensuring that the language be gender neutral. Also included for the first time is a compendium of the rulings of the Speaker. On the 21st of July, the report of that draft standing orders was adopted by the National Assembly. Why we adopt the thing? We adopted it, and each one of those, and I was trying my best to get the Hansard of that standing order committee, but I couldn't get it. But it will obviously state therein the rationale why we want a 3-man quorum to make that work of the PAC move forward. And so we have it. It is written here by Mr. Sherlock Isaacs, writing that. These amendments were incorporated into the standing orders, which have been reprinted for circulation to members of the 10th Parliament. What law reform? As I am saying, it is a rolling back of the true democracy that we had in that period and the robust parliamentary period. Why are you going to go roll it back? You know, and you call it, and they are almost Goebbelian in their propaganda, that this is but an evolution into a higher order. This is not so. It is reckless, and it is a rollback. It is a retrograde step, and it should not be countenanced by the parliamentarians here. I don't know if the younger parliamentarians of the government side does not appreciate what we did during that constitutional and parliamentary reform process. It seems that they never understand it. And so it is important that we get there. Mr. Speaker, we also inserted, well, not inserted, but they inserted what is called the Standing Orders Committee in Standing Order 89. There shall be a committee to be known as the Standing Orders Committee, to consist of the Speaker as chairperson, and not less than 6 nor more than 10 members to be nominated by the Committee of Selection as soon as may be after the beginning of each session. It shall be the duty of the committee to consider from time to time and report all matters relating to our standing orders, which are referred to in the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, We create institutions like this in that parliamentary process. Standing orders, committee. So what? It is there for decorative purposes? Are we just there to have it on some shelf now for the purposes of not in any way ensuring that now that we want a change, the Standing Orders Committee as a subcommittee dealing with this thing should not have dealt with it before? I am very surprised at Gail, honorable member, for taking this course of wanting to do basically an amendment of an entrenched position, a parliamentary entrenched position. Just like in our constitution, we have certain entrenched clauses. We have entrenched standing orders. This is one of them. And you feel now that you can come here by a majority and you just go and you argue the case that, look, we change it. And you know, they spread the word around like gospel, even coming from Bishop Wanejil, honorable member, that indeed this thing has godliness about it. It is the devil here, and we must see under the veil what the devil is. Mr. Speaker, all of these are reasons why we should not persist with this thing. It should have gone to the Standing Orders Committee. I must commend my friend, and although they laugh at him and say he's plain lawyer, he is smart enough to understand that in the written way it is done here, the formulation, it means that if that chairperson is not there, you can't get a meeting. And so it is important then that that also be amended. Mr. Speaker, this thing has tremendous detrimental impacts in relation to our financial scrutiny by this committee. This is the important committee, probably the most important committee of Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee, because it's the Parliament that in a government or the executive branch that spends the money. It is an opposition branch, as it were, to ensure that it is scrutinized properly. And though you can have 5 members being on their side in that committee, the whole tenor, the whole context of why it is needed is for that access to give the balance to the opposition side. What we are doing here is making de minimis. It should not be supported. This is but a dastardly development of our financial affairs in our parliament. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Hey, you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay. Congratulations on a quite impressive speech. Hello. Is anyone there? It seems we're having some technical difficulties. Okay, well, while we work these things out, let me say this. Well, first of all, happy holidays for everyone. Happy Easter to the Guyanese people and our audience in Berbice and throughout Guyana. We had just had a chance to hear a very important speech by the Honorable Kemraj Rambritan concerning the changes to the quorum rules for the Public Accounts Committee. Now, as a person in the diaspora, I find it fascinating that standing orders of any parliament, of any deliberative body, can be so easily changed with a simple majority. You know, it's almost as though the parliament can a parliamentary majority could change the constitution of Guyana almost. I find it to be quite dangerous. It certainly does not lend itself to cooperation or bipartisanship, or it certainly does not lend itself to a healthy to the development and maintaining of a healthy democracy. It's frightening in some respects.
Yeah. Are you hearing me now, Ewart? I am hearing you loud and clear.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah. That was an important address, I must say, in a very important topic in Parliament. And Barbicians have to understand that little by little, we're seeing what I call a backward step. And by the way, that is why Transparency International, in its perception index, is stating that since the PPP has come in government, we have dropped a number of points as against what we were whilst we were in government. The perception now is that we are a far more corrupt country. And it is because of things like this. If people understand what I was saying there, it is simply that in Parliament, the government approves money and the government spends that money. How do we know that the money is properly spent? Is by virtue of two institutions, one called the Auditor General's Office and the other which supervises also in a sense the Auditor General's work on the money spent, and that is called the Public Accounts Committee. And in the Public Accounts Committee, you have the 4 opposition members, and they then, along with the 5 government members, they scrutinize spendings. We are not supposed to have ministers on that parliamentary PAC, Public Accounts Committee. But we see that although Gail Teixeira is there, I think Juan Edgil is there, they're ministers. And okay, we had an opportunity in 2015, 2020, where we indicated that we would try as best as possible not to have ministers in the thing. But we ended up having some ministers ourselves. But a promise was made, and Gail and all of them shouted us down. Today they got ministers there. Now, ministers being there are the people we are scrutinizing. And you're supposed to now, recuse yourself and all of that. They don't recuse themselves. But moreover, what they have done now for meetings to be called in the existing regime, you got 3 persons, and 3 generally could come from the opposition. So what they do now is they set up this thing to put mandatory, you got to get 2 government members of that committee before the work could start. Moreover, they're saying that if a chairman is not there, the chairman, that is Figueroa, is not there, what can do? So it could stultify the examination and scrutiny of of the government spending, like all the flood relief money that they thief, all the COVID money that they thief, and they could block it by virtue of not turning up to the meetings. Whereas right now, like in all the other committees, excepting the Parliamentary Management Committee, you can have 3 members starting it up. And most of the committees are made up 9, 5 government, 4 opposition. And 3 members could start up the meeting and have a valid meeting and cross-examine all these ministries, officials as to how the money is spent. It's the most important. Look what they're gonna do now. Make mandatory that you gotta get 5 members who can make the quorum to start the meeting. And 2 must be government members. Now, if you ain't getting 5, you can't start a meeting. If you had under our right now arrangement, if you get 4, you could start the meeting. You get 3, you could start the meeting. And all 3 could be opposition. Now you are compelled. You got to wait until Gail and Bishop Wanegil walk in the parliament. And when them walk in, then meeting can start. Right now, you can have 3 opposition members, meeting can start. So when they said that they're doing it to do fairness and balance and all of that, it's a lot of crap. And all across the Commonwealth, England, India, Canada, Australia, all over the world, this is how it is done. The minuscule amount of people to do the quorum, to get the quorum, so that you could start the work of the Parliamentary Accounts Committee. And so little by little, a number of the constitutional commissions, as I said in that speech, have not been established. Like the Judicial Service Commission, all manner of commissions, and so Integrity Commission, none in start work, and it's 2 years almost we done with the PPP government. 2 years. And so they don't like these commissions and constitutional bodies to be around that could now make the appointments for judges, make the appointments for police service, the police, but we now passed that on that same day. We passed the Police Service Commission members and so on. But, these are what I call the tyranny of the majority. They feel that they get a majority so that they could do what they want. With our majority, when we had the majority in 2015, right up to 20, when Sharon Das do magic and do all kind of, I don't want to call him the word because they got a court case going on for what I call him. What we did is that we expanded democracy. Take, for example, that Natural Resource Fund Act. Inside of the Transparency and Accountability Committee to see how our oil monies are going to be spent, we expanded the bloody thing to 22 people. That is what we did. As against when soon as them come in government, first amendment and first repeal was to our Natural Resource Fund Act. And they bring it down to 5 members, all 5 of which are appointed by them. We even strike hard to get at least 1 member, either Christopher Ram or Vince Edwards. You know the whole situation with that transparency board and so on. That the petroleum thing. And they didn't allow us. They tell we that Dunstan Barrow is a PNC member and we will select Dunstan Barrow. These people ain't got no shame now, And are kind of thieving money and hotel they building and they buying house and land and so on at Skeldon. I was up at quarantine. I heard they buy big house and land and so on. People in go invest and people in vice president and so on. We're going to get this thing. We're going to catch them, because inherent in some of the conduct of these PPP leaders is treachery and a lot of corruption. And that is why they can't get any of the things together. They corrupted the minds of the Barbicians when they say, are we going to bring back a sugar industry? Aramjatan them broke them up. We had proper analyses done. And they lied to the people. Today, you'd never get Skeldon factory open. They're taking the more plant now, I don't know where they carry them. They're not carrying nothing yet. They don't even do the foundation yet. And now they tell Abibo what? Abibo plant hemp. Hemp they're going into now. We got a society here and know nothing but hemp. We had included inside of that policy that when we gonna lock up, lock down the 3 estates or the 2 estates that we did, we're gonna have alternative livelihoods in a 5 P's: plantain, pumpkin, pineapple, prawns, and something else, peppers. Because 1 acre of that kind of crop cultivation makes 10 times more than sugar. And that is what we were about to do, because you had to get some oil money. But of course, the no confidence motion come and, you know, and do a lot of scuttling of what we had wanted.
It sounds like the opposite. It sounds like the government is broken every promise.
Ensure that they you know, spend it on those crops rather than go back and promise the people a lot of sugar and so on, and they're not doing anything. But you can go ahead.
So, are we documenting all of these things? I mean, it seems to me that, you know, if the Guyanese people knew about all of the instances where the government, current government, has broken promises, has gone back on their word, you know, are doing corrupt things, you know, I have to imagine that the Guyanese people are smart enough to realize that they, like you said, they've been bamboozled. You know, they can't hide these things forever. So, hoodwinked, yes. So are we documenting these things to present to the Guyanese people, to make it known? I know we appear on shows like this and we say these things, but you know, what are we doing above and beyond, you know, these sorts of shows to
well,
make sure the Guyanese
let me tell you
people know
something.
exactly
Even you sometimes mention that people are listeners now. Documentation of the thing into booklet forms or whatever is useful. But when you are on social media like I am, you get thousands and thousands of people watching. And the people are aware of how they have been hoodwinked by the Jagdeo cronies and them. They know that. I don't know when you're saying we got to document it, what we got to go write a book about it now. No, but whatever it is for purposes of talking on it and repeating the story on everywhere we go. When we go to, like we went to Anne's Grove, we mentioned all of these promises. When we went to quarantine, you mention all of them at the bottom house meetings and so on. When you go to Parliament, you have to mention them. When me and you talking here, we got to mention them. And that is it. They said they're going to bring down the salaries that we increase to give our, you know, selves big lifestyles. Boss, when we went into government, the salaries was so low. We wondered how it is that Summit's a big mansion they're building. You understand? And we then made the thing more appropriate, like as comparable to the Caribbean parliamentarians. And we did increase it from about $369,000 to about $800,000. But they had said, as soon as we go in back government, we will decrease or reduce back the salaries. Jack Devin reduced nothing. Irfan Alian reduced nothing. You know what they have done? The 7% or 10% increase that they gave for the past 2 years, they also attached that to their salaries. And when we had increased our salaries in the 2015 era, for the 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, we never increased it, although the public servants got almost 33% increase and more. We never increased it. So people will know how rotten they are. But I am talking about now sugar, because sugar is a big thing for Barbicians. That is why the Barbicians are getting so many outreaches now by Jagdeo. The people are telling him, and let me tell you something, it's not only sugar, you know, it's the fishing industry. It's gonna die, that fishing industry. And they're not asking ExxonMobil, like I notice our experts and so on have been telling us that it is because of that fishing, that industry. And so we would have to ask Exxon probably to subsidize some of these fishermen. But you know, the fishermen, just like the cane cutters too, they apparently too shamefaced now, knowing how hoodwinked they were by the PPP. So all of them will go there now at the meeting with Jack Dale, and they go sit glum, don't want to talk nothing. And all Jack Dale will tell them is a whole host of nonsense. One way you never bill, 16 more hotel go up. Those farmers in quarantine ain't gonna know nothing inside of that kind of service sector, hotel business and so on. But here it is. Also, it is important for food security in Guyana. Guyana might be a country with fertile lands, lots of water, and because of the stupidity of their agricultural policy, you're gonna get hemp instead of plantains and pumpkins and pineapple and prawns. They're so silly, and they're going to waste that oil money into an industry. Now, you know, the big talk about hemp and all of that has to do with these same lands at Skeldan and the same lands at Wales. They're farming, you know, like what Putin did with the oligarchs in Russia. He farmed a set of people that are very close to him, and then he sell out the crown jewels of the country to them, and they became the oligarchs. And as a fellow named Browder said, Putin said, I want my percentage. My percentage is 50%. And that is why Putin is one of the richest leaders in the world. Very corrupt. You could very well have that happening here now with that set of prize lands. I remember these same investors that want to go into hemp, they come and gaff with me. And I tell them, go to the intermediate savannas. Start a little project there. Leave these lands for those sugar workers that are out of jobs now. And then because of the fact that you got to right-size the industry, they can get the 10-acre plots and plant pepper and plantain and pumpkin and so on. They don't want that. These investors, they want to come to take those prize lands that is already infrastructured with drainage and irrigation canals and dams and beautiful roads and all of that. Them go buy that for a penny, and our people will not get to plant food. They go get plant hemp. Cane cutters and all of them inside of them, the strong support areas got punished because they're not going to get lands to plant food. It's food we got to do here in the coast. If you are a big investor and you want to go into hemp, take 30,000 acre, 40,000 acre in the intermediate Sahara. Go and create your land, your drainage and irrigation, your dams, your roads, your whatever. And you plant your hemp, man. But Jack, they're now going and tell them East Indians up there, I will go plant hemp. What madness is that?
I read today where the president said that he was going to provide part-time jobs for the cane cutters, the sugar workers. Now I know that the sugar workers who are not working need something. They need some kind of work. But is it your belief that this part-time work will suffice for them and their families?
It will not. You need sustainable jobs for them. And by the way, from amongst those that were terminated by us, about 2,000 got back their jobs with taking the money. They got back employment, not their job. Some of them went to some other estate. Some went into the taxi business. Some of them went to hairdressing salon. About 2,000 of them. And the rest now were supposed to await plots of land for alternative livelihoods program. And because they're hardworking agriculture people, the cane farmers. So you have to understand that. But now you're going to, and by the way, I was up at quarantine. I was at 64 village, 65 village. I went to a funeral of a cousin of mine. And the more you talk to some of these people, they have been stunned by what is happening to them now. Jobs. And they will promise a whole set of things. I don't know. That is why we just want some accountability. If you're giving jobs to some people, that same Public Accounts Committee can ask for an investigation. Mr. Vice President, please do an investigation and an evaluation performance as to the jobs, temporary jobs though they may be, as to who and who got the jobs in quarantine. Now they want to block all of that by this new arrangement for the quorum. All of that will be blocked. So we ain't going to get, let's say, the Auditor General or any special audit or forensic audit as to whether indeed the jobs are going to be given and what kind of jobs and how much money and all of that. So it is promised. It's a lot of pie in the sky scheming. Pie in the sky. Trump and them. Tell them I'm going to make 16 hotels. I'm going to give 50,000 jobs. There is a minus among the jobs as compared to the AFC new government. There's minus because they knock off so much of public servants, they knock off so much of other people, and so on. So they all over the place. There is a big hue and a cry. What wrong with this PPP government? I mean, I get eat a house. I mean, I get food a house. That is what plenty of them tell me at 47 dead too. And you promise this. The rice industry is going down because of the fertilizer price gone to $10,000 bag. Everybody quarreling. And they're racing and they say how we are grounding with the brothers and the comrades. Grounding? The people, they're going to give the people hampers. But you know what the people tell me? I'm going to end up with pampers soon. Yes. From hampers to pampers. Yes. And this is what is happening there in quarantine. And that's the base. A strong base of the PPP. So the rice is in trouble. Fishing is in trouble. Sugar was always in trouble. And they lied. Today, we now see that they want to go and do some stripping. And they want to talk about the alternative livelihoods and so on. So it was our program that they will steal. And they will do it stealthily by not acknowledging that this is what is supposed to be done in the sugar areas. And that was supposed to be done a long time ago. We had to make the decision. It was a brave decision. We knew that we could have political fallouts. But it was the correct decision. Even sugar workers knew that this thing now make profit by how are we going to do the industry like that. And so
prior to
go ahead.
I was going to say prior to elections, the government was talking about renegotiating the Exxon contract. Are they making any moves towards that?
No, not a promise. No, not a promise. You know all the promises. Me not have to document them. This is but a form of documentation. That is what they said. They come into government now. You think they could tell Exxon we're going to renegotiate the contract? They cannot do that. When things like that are signed and sealed and delivered, it's very, very difficult. You could have now gone back into assuring that they do not do the damage environmentally to like our fishing industry or the flaring and all of that. Those are things that we wanted a strong environmental protection agency to do. And the strongest persons and personnel was Dr. Vince Adams. But they chased the man out. To ensure that you got strong people in the EITI, like Dr. Jadupat, they chase you out. To ensure that you get strong people for the new variety of rice at Nari, they chase out Dr. Umnat Udu. All the bright people, they chase out. And a bare jagabat they got there now. Running them things is. So, and they're instructing them, some of them, and we're not going to move as a nation when you're going to get just people in the political arena instructing these technical people what and what to do. It is crazy. And those are the examples I will give you because they've not kept their promise again with the oil renegotiation. And even so many other things, they're saying that they're going to do this, they're going to do that. They're going to go back to Amila Falls and so on. Look, I am not against the Chinese, but we have to be very cautious, as Anand Gulsaran and all writing about the investments with Chinese. We have to make sure that we do not allow companies to come in with boot arrangements and give us the boot with extremely high cost for energy so that they could pay back themselves and go back out to the country. So that is another setup again, in my view, where they will be talking plenty. We're going to get Amila Falls and we're going to get gas to shore, this and that and so on. They are just talking wildly and loudly, but not rationally. And all kinds of big project they're going to get. Project execution in Guyana is a very sluggish thing. And you got to know too, they were there for 23 years. Did they get any of them big projects done properly? Skeleton Factory is one of them. The fiber optic cable is another one. And how much scams you didn't have under the PPP. And we were trying to ensure that these don't recur. And of course, a lot will come out of that court case that we have in relation to that Charandas no confidence motion, in which I'm sued for libel and all of that. But it is important to understand that Jagdeo and them is only power they're concerned about. And when they get the power, they're not doing the necessary things to ensure that all Guyanese benefit. Is only a set of friends and family and favorites. Yes.
Yeah, while you were speaking, I was trying to think of an infrastructure project that was successfully done by the PPP government. Can you think of any?
None. Not one single one. And you know, the European Union gave them 110 million euros to ensure that the sugar industry gets back it was in the red all the time, but to get back break even. They take all that euro money and they put them other places but sugar. I've been warning the Barbicians about that. They were the ones that broke up sugar. And Donald Ramutar then was the chairperson of Gaisuco. Then he became president. And all manner of things happen with that set of money. We know it ain't gone yet. And you know, Gawu sit down and not talk nothing because you collect union dues only. They're not even mentioning how it is that and more packaging plant, where it gone, what is happening to it, why we now got for going to hemp. They shut up their mouths because they're all fearful of Jagdeo. They're going to put 2 halap on them and they're done. But Jagdeo is supposed to go on pasture now after having serviced 2.5 terms as president. He is violating a norm of our constitution. And a lot of people not wanting to talk about this. One professor from the University of West Indies recently in a seminar was talking about the kingification of certain leaders in and around the Caribbean. The kingification. I thought she was talking straight about the what's happening in the PPP now. Because some people feel that they could get all the powers and do whatever they want by commandist and commandeering methods and so on. And that is wrong. I rather suspect that a more caring person than Irfan Ali, you know, you could see that with him a little more than Jagdeo. But he's not being allowed to do any of these things. It's Jagdeo. You got go any big announcement and so on, Jagdeo making it. And it is not your prime minister too. I am ashamed how they push him on corner. The brigadier. And so it is important, Barbicians, to understand that, you know, all that we've been talking about the PPP and especially how Jagdeo's commandism is now in application, we are not going to get anything good here. Amidst all this wealth that the oil has provided, we will suffer the worst times in Guyana. crime gonna go up back. People's nutrition because of shortage of rice and fish and all kind of thing. We been and look for some shrimps and so on at Skeldon Market. The things are there. Me know how them ordinary coolie man there and coolie woman buy them thing there. Much less them black people there. Because, you know, it is not an inequality that I'm talking here, but the people there in quarantine, especially the East Indians, they seem to have bigger houses and doing a little well. But now them crying out, shrimps gone so much by. They can't eat gilbaka and our Barbies. They can't eat snapper and so on. And this is what a PPP government. And that is why you're going to get so much resentment from them, and they're going to start cuss, as you would have seen in the Facebook. A couple of them already start cussing. The people at Blackbush Polder, the people at Charity, all of them start cussing now. And that is why they're rushing. Go and talk to them people to buy. Because they got a well-oiled machinery, the PPP. And they got plants in all the regions and all the districts. And they're telling them, buddy, a beer pressure be there under here. Then people want to know what make me not get job, why we can't bring down fertilizer price, why this and that, and why that and this. So they're running now. They're running like mad people. And so the people are telling them. And to come up with solutions, they're not thinking it out. They don't want to go back home and do the introspection as to what is a good policy. No, I'm going to plant hemp. Yes. It will create a big cannabis cultivation, in my opinion, and it will be disastrous for this country.
We have a few more minutes. Can you? And I know there's a new opposition leader. Can you talk a little bit about what the opposition is planning to do to defend the interests of the people of Guyana and certainly the people in Berbice? Well, what is the opposition going to do?
Well, the opposition will do what opposition does all the time. It will scrutinize the government in the various committees, like one of which is the Public Accounts Committee. We are going to scrutinize the policy of the government, whatever the policy, whether they're hemp policy as against a sugar policy or the non-existence of a sugar policy, what they're going to do in relation to helping the rice farmers or the fish farmers. We will be going there talking to those people. I noticed they have taken first jump. They gone and talked to the people. But the people want to talk to us too. And they want to talk to the leader of the opposition, who has indicated that as the new leader of the opposition, he would like to go and talk to those people too. Hear suggestions, know their difficulties and challenges, and talk the talk. We also want to talk to the experts of the World Bank, the experts of the IMF, the experts in the CDB and the IDB. We don't exclude them, and also our local experts like Vince Adams, like Clive Thomas, as to what might be some of the best policies to put forward. Have you written anything lately about rice and this and that and so on? And to talk to all these experts that they knock off recently, like Jadupat and Omnath and so on, and ask them their ideas because they have been long there and so on. And that is basically what it is. And then write about them, speak on them, and do that which the opposition always does, be critical of the existing government. And so that is what we have been doing. That is what we're doing in this program now, and that is what we will continue to do. And, well, of course, I congratulated him on his win as the new PNC leader and also becoming the leader of the opposition. We had made a principled position, taken a principled position, and said that once the PNC leadership elections is over, whosoever is the new leader of the PNC is entitled to the leader of the opposition position. And so we stuck to that. And so we will be talking to them. We have to talk to them in the APNU component of the alliance, of the coalition, and continue to come up with our own ideas too. We know that there's a lot of other factors that might be helping produce these difficulties. The war in Ukraine, the COVID and so on. But it is largely to do with a country that is priding itself of growing 40% growth next year. or this year, 40% growth this year. And yet people punishing. And that is the difficulty. We have to tell our people, don't make the mistake in 2025 by putting them jagabats this and again. They lied. We had to make the hard decisions. But the hard decisions is what you make for the long-term development of a country. Chedi Jagan used to teach us that. But all of them inside of the PPP now, like they forget Jagan. Them only a Surhawe Jagdeo. And that is wrong, because I don't know any excellence or brilliance from that chap in connection with his economics and so on. Let him tell us which project of his has been successful. All fail. And we have done a number of things to bring back a modicum of respectability to our balanced budgets. He gone and borrowed $200 billion deficit financing. And then he take out all the money from the oil fund. Every damn cent, $607 million. He took out from the oil fund. And when we ask him where the money there, specifically, where did it go to up to now? He and Ashni can't tell we. They say it is fungible. It gone into the consolidated fund. It can do a little increase of wage. It will do this. It will do that. Look, when we set up that oil fund, we wanted to know where the oil money will go to. If it will go to a street or if it will go to this and that. Specify it. No, they mix all the thing up. So you don't know where the money gone now. And we don't get another $400 million coming for this year already. Or 200 million US. All gone just the way, like what happened with the last one. And so we will continue to demand of the government of the day, as we will do in Parliament and so on, by our speeches. And we hope that people out there are going to listen. Because some of them, they didn't even know that I gave an address of that nature in the Parliament. By Utah, I didn't know nothing about that. And so on. And so we have to also do our public relations work so that lots more people can read us and see us and hear us. Because we are doing a wonderful job there, holding them to account, as all opposition must do. So I'd like to end there if on that score.
Well, thank you, Kemraj. Your words were most enlightening and encouraging. I am optimistic that the opposition will hold the government's feet to the fire and defend the interests of the Guyanese people. And certainly from the perspective of someone in the diaspora, that is a very good thing, because everyone has their eye on Guyana these days, and Guyana has a bright future, but only if the opposition can really scrutinize the government and make sure the Guyanese people's interests are protected. Thank you for entertaining my questions tonight.
Thank you very much, Ewart. And a good night to all Bobitians. Thanks.
Good night, all.